I really wanted to get this news video out yesterday, man, but unfortunately I was out of town. But if you guys missed our stream the other day, I was on the Ringside live stream on Ringside Collectibles YouTube channel, where we went over there, did some brand new reveals, did some unboxings. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate those guys and everybody over there for having me on, man. It was a huge blessing. I appreciate Ringside Collectibles, the Mattel team, everybody over there. So thank you guys for coming by. But on that stream, they revealed some stuff, and, you know, time was limited. 5 people on the panel. Tough to, you know, go through everything and get all your fully thought out thoughts. So I wanted to get on here and kind of cover this a little bit and talk about everything that they revealed, man. So let's get into it. I think the main crux of it, you know, they did reveal and talk about some different things, which we'll get into. They showed off Elite Series 124, which we've already kind of talked about. I imagine those figures, they might make it in before the new year. I'm not entirely sure, you know, Elite Series 124. I'm kind of excited for this set. I know there's no flashbacks in the set, but it actually looks like a pretty strong set, all things considered. I think that a lot of the details here in this set are going to be great, but we won't know until we get them in hand. But this looks like a pretty strong set, even though there are no flashbacks. A lot of current talent, or all current talent actually, you know, all in modern times. But let's get into this SummerSlam Elite Wave, man. Let's start things off with the craziest part of it. Let's get into the Chyna figure. Now, a lot of people are going to see this Chyna figure, and they're going to immediately think, oh, that's that Monday Night Wars Elite that we saw not too long ago. And I'm going to put the two side by side so you can see the differences here. I think these figures have the same face sculpt, just different hair sculpt. And then I think they both utilize that Ultimate Edition torso that we're going to talk about just in a second. But, you know, Chyna was always wearing black leather, and, you know, there were studs, and black and studs was her main look. Different gears, different buckles, very similar to Rhea Ripley. A lot of black, dark colors, but, you know, changed up the straps and the buckles and the studs and all these different things. But I'm excited for both of these figures because the torso, man. So what they have done with this Chyna, and this blew me away. This is huge right here, man, and I can't wait to see how they implement this further down into the line. But they have utilized the Ultimate Edition Tiffany Stratton torso onto this Chyna figure, which is huge. Now, of course, this is an Elite, so she's not going to have butterfly joints. That is an Ultimate Edition exclusive deal. They're not going to have butterfly joints because it's an Elite. But if you are familiar with the AEW Jazzwares figures, the torso is now sitting down inside of the crotch piece. So there is a ball joint on the waist, and that is how the ab crunch goes and how the waist swivels and all these different things. If you have the Tiffany Stratton Ultimate Edition, you know how great that is, how good the ab crunch is on those figures compared to the Elites, compared to other WWE figures that Mattel's ever made. And this Chyna is going to be one of those big, you know, we talk about groundbreaking figures in the line. We talk about these, you know, most important quote-unquote inclusions into the line. This is a huge first step into, you know, furthering this. I mean, this is such a huge part. And now, you know, I'm looking forward to more women's elites that can include this. I can't wait to see who's going to be the first male elite or men's figure to get this same treatment, because I think that not only do the women's figures need it, you know, the women's figures used to be basics in the elite line. They used to take basic women figures and put them in the elite line. That was a real thing. Limited, super limited, did not have all the, you know, bells and whistles that the men's figures had, and they couldn't move practically. They had very limited details, and they've made incredible strides in the line. And this is another step right there with this Chyna figure. But on top of that, you know, we've always wanted the ab crunch to really improve on the Elite figures, on the Ultimates, and now we are seeing it come to fruition with this Chyna into the Elite line. So this is the first Elite that's going to have that feature here with this articulation and this movement system, and I'm really hoping to see that again included moving forward, and we will see how it all unfolds with the male figures and everything like that. But this Chyna looks really good. You know, it's very similar to the Monday Night Wars, but again, it does include that new torso articulation for the Mattel line and everything for WWE, so we will see how it comes out and everything like that. But I was pretty impressed with that. That kind of blew me away. But let's get into the Mankind figure. And the Mankind figure is kind of what we talked about beforehand. Remember, this line was leaked out there a few weeks ago. Remember, we talked about it heavily on the channel. We talked about it, and we got into it. And we talked about how this was a previously released Mankind, and how we pretty much looked at this wave as pretty much kind of being a re-release wave, which you will see heavily later on as well. But this Mankind right here, I don't know the exact formula. I can't remember if they showed the legs and what shoes it has, but I couldn't tell. Maybe in the video, again, during the live stream, it was very hard to tell. I could not remember off rip if I could see the I don't think they are using the old John Cena shoe mold. That would blow me away. They'll probably end up using the Brian Pillman legs, if I had to guess. You know, the jeans kind of tucked into, but they'll make them look like the black sweatpants tucked into the shoes. If I had to guess, that's what they would do. Again, I'm just going off rip. That's a figure I need to track down, by the way, is that Brian Pillman. But this figure is great because they're taking that same look from the Ultimate Edition Mankind, the Monday Night Wars one, and they are giving him the cloth goods shirt, which I thought was a good inclusion into the Ultimate. But as you guys know, the Elite articulation is going to be a little bit better on the ab crunch, and so because that is the case, this figure should move and operate way better than that previous Elite, 17 repaint or the SummerSlam Elite from back in the day in the same wave as the Finn Balor from SummerSlam. This is way better. Cloth goods printed on there. It's going to be double jointed. It comes with Mr. Sacco, and it also comes with the Smoking Skull Championship, which is huge. We talked about that when the line was leaked out there. We talked about that. How, who would come with a Smoking Skull? Is Stone Cold going to come with it, or is Mankind going to come with it? And now it does come with Mankind, which I know a lot of people are going to want that championship. We have not seen that championship many times, man. I think it's maybe 2 or 3 times tops that we have seen the Smoking Skull, so I know a lot of people are going to be excited about that with the Mankind figure, but they're utilizing a lot of the Ultimate Edition style stuff, the way they did the shirt, the head sculpt, different things, and we could be looking at probably the best Mankind we've seen, so that's interesting. We'll have to monitor that. I bet he still has the jacked arms, unfortunately, but that's one of those things we're still holding out for. The bigger arms that aren't as muscular or defined is what we're looking for, so we'll see. But that Mankind is pretty good. Let's move on to the Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Stone Cold Steve Austin, this is great because it's utilizing that WrestleMania 13 3-pack Austin, and it does look like they're using the rubber vest, which we've seen 100 times over the last 15 years, but I do like that they're utilizing the same head sculpt. He's still come with the Screaming head sculpt, so they're really getting their numbers in. They're reusing those molds with the head sculpt and the Screaming head, and this is pretty much that 3-pack Austin, except it comes with a rubber vest instead, but it is a fantastic base Austin. This is, and I said on the stream, I think that it is a definitive Austin because they are, like the Elite 122 Austin, they are giving him the bigger shoulders and arms, which is something that people have been clamoring for Stone Cold. And, when we got it in the Defining Moments line, the Bloody Austin with the Screaming head sculpt, that WrestleMania 13 Austin with the blood, the Defining Moments ringside exclusive, that figure's great, but I think they use smaller legs on this one. This one's going to have the bigger legs, the bigger shoulders and arms, so it's going to have everything that you want out of a Stone Cold Steve Austin, which gives him that definitive look, which I think is massive for Stone Cold. Previous Elites have been really good of Stone Cold, but they haven't been the perfect formula and everything like that, which they've kind of been working towards, and I think this one accomplishes that. I know it's not all the bells and whistles that you want, but it is a perfect formula, Stone Cold, good head sculpts, and Stone Cold's not that flashy, right? So I think this is a pretty good inclusion here, and it's going to sell like hotcakes because it is the perfect base Austin, and people are going to blow that up, man. People are going to want this figure a lot. And then we get to probably the worst figure in the set, in my opinion, which is going to be the Triple H. Now, again, all of the figures in this set, including the Build-A-Figure, are all from the same exact matchup, the Triple Threat from SummerSlam 1999, and I think that this one is the bummiest one in the set, and it's not anything in particular. It would have been really cool if they could have utilized something unique with the Triple H, maybe with a new torso or something unique here, because we're looking at, it's an Elite equivalent of his Ultimate Edition, his first Ultimate Edition, which you could argue this is probably a handful of gears that Triple H ever wore. This is probably one of his most iconic looks that he ever wore. People would probably argue this one, probably the Iron Cross from 2002. There's some different iterations there, but you could argue this is his most definitive look, especially for this time period. He wore this gear many, many times, and we saw this in the Legends line, and we also saw kind of a repaint of it in the Elite 2-pack with Jeff Hardy a few years ago, but that one did have single-jointed arms, but you're seeing the same Ultimate head sculpt, so it would have been nice to see some newness, but we're not really getting anything new here. I think the only thing new on this figure compared to other Triple H's is going to be the new, the quote-unquote Stone Cold knee braces, or the newer knee braces that we have not seen. I do believe that is included here. So that, it's not going to set the world on fire, but again, it is going to be that definitive look of Triple H. It is, Attitude Era Triple H. People are going to look at this and go, oh my God, that Triple H goes perfectly with that Austin, and you're going to sell that. So the Mankind, you're kind of getting a full Monday Night Wars set here, which is kind of cool. And I understand it, that people will maybe not be the most excited because it doesn't touch on a bunch of different eras. Well, it's all one match, but they're really forming out that 90s era, man. They're really looking hard into the Attitude Era here with this full set. And I mean, I really wish that we could have gotten a different gear just because we've seen this before, but at the same time, it's kind of a wash. I feel like there's always at least one figure that's a wash possibly in the set, and this would probably be the one, but I could understand where people would be upset about this. It wasn't my favorite pick here, and we kind of discussed this. When the line was leaked out there, we went into all of this. We kind of, preceded this reveal, talking about the things that it could be or what it would be, and this is what we got. But let's get into the Build-A-Figure here, which I think could be a sleeper figure. We have the Build-A-Figure Jesse Ventura, which I think they did really good on the head sculpt. You get the yelling head sculpt, you get the serious face, both of which look pretty pretty good. They also showed him shirtless. I asked him, I wanted to see it without the shirt, so I asked Magic, show us, what the torso is. They're utilizing that Iron Sheik, older man, Jesse right here, so he's got a little bit of a belly on him there and everything like that. I mean, you're gonna keep the shirt on there. Maybe you could utilize this Build-A-Figure in a different way if you don't want referee Jesse Ventura. But these head sculpts are really good. Solid formula. I can't really tell. I think that, again, it is the Pillman legs. I can't see off the rip, but thank God it's not Muhammad Ali legs. That's all I can say. Hopefully guy poses well and everything. But I think the cloth shirt looks pretty good for the most part. V-cut may go down a little far, but not the biggest deal of all time. It's fine. I think it fits well, not superly overly baggy or ridiculous looking like maybe the Evolution 3-pack Triple H. So I think this is fair. I think the Jesse looks pretty good for the most part, and I thought this set was pretty good overall. I think that pretty straightforward. Probably the bummer of the set is Triple H, and not that it's bad, it's just we've kind of seen it before. We've seen this movie before, you know what I mean? And I love rewatching movies, but yeah, it would have been nice to see something utilized right there. But we also had a couple basic reveals. We got to see Ivy Nile, which both of these basic figures look incredible. I thought the head sculpt stood out really, really well, and the colors on these basics look really good. So you have Ivy Nile, fantastic head sculpt. The braids and everything look really good. I think that, the designers did a fantastic job on this one. And then we also got Sol Ruka, which is another, talent that people have been wanting here, which I think, again, looks pretty damn good. And I think the tattoos look good. She's also got these newly tooled hands that has the hang loose, but she, Colton said that it has enough room where she can hold a microphone or something like that. So it's a 2-in-1 kind of hand here, which I think is really unique. And I like the gear here. Solid figure. I don't ever really pre-order basics. I can't even tell you. Dude, I may have never pre-ordered a basic. I'm trying to think off the top of the dome if I've ever pre-ordered a basic ever. I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever pre-ordered a basic, but if I see these in person out on our toy hunts, I'm always constantly hitting up stores and doing toy hunts, so we will see. If I can find these in person, I will absolutely pull the trigger. If we see these, I always try to do that. If you come across a first time in the line basic, something like that. But I think these would make really good for elites. But as basics, I think they look pretty good. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But that was kind of the extent of it. I mean, they did show off Elite 124 like we stated. Got to see some detail to that. I showed off the Defining Moments Cody Rhodes with the new Winged Eagle. I think I'm going to review that in full so we can get a real scope of that championship. I can go through that video, showcase that championship with many other characters, right? I'll put it with Hogan. I'll put it with, all the different characters that you could possibly want with that. I think that would make really cool for a video to see how the new title looks. And I know I showed it off with Bret Hart in the live stream the other day with Ringside, but I want to get, I want to not only show off the Cody, but show off the championship and then, showcase the differences between the championship and show the new tooling on it and everything, because it looks extremely better, man. It's a way better representation of the Winged Eagle, so I think a lot of people are going to be excited about that. And then we'll get into the Cody, the head sculpt, the jacket, the attire, and everything like that, so we'll break all of that down. I think I'm going to review that figure probably tomorrow, so you guys can look forward to that. But I want to get on here, touch on this news. Really wish I'd have got this up on Sunday, but it was pretty much impossible due to time constraints, but got it up today. And then we will review Cody, and we have some other exciting videos coming up for the end of the year, because it is the end of the year, and we got a lot to rank and figure out here, man. But that is pretty much going to wrap it up for me, man. Hope you guys did enjoy. I'd love to know all of your thoughts on these things down below, but let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you guys. See you next time. Have a blessed one.